Hi guys, it's Andy from Estella's Revenge. I've been trying to record videos all last week and all last weekend, and I just haven't had any luck. I've run out of time, I've had things come up, work has been really busy, so I'm taking a few minutes out of my lunch hour today to touch base with all of you. So I'm here today to review Kindred by Octavia Butler, and I read this with Grace Eckmeyer and Didi from Frenchie D. And I previously reviewed a short story of Butler's called Bloodchild, and so this novel was quite different from that one. The main character's name is Dana. She is an African-American woman living in 1976. This book was written in the late 70s or early 80s, so it's not very far off from when the book was originally written. And she basically gets sucked into the slave-owning South. How that happens is never explained, but she's sort of pulled through time, specifically to save a little boy named Rufus, who is a white man and who will grow up to be a slave owner, unfortunately. So we get to see him come up from those early days of being a very innocent child to kind of being assimilated into that slave-owning culture. And it's really a fascinating read. Dana is a polar opposite to slavery. I mean, she is living in 1976, as I mentioned. She has a job, she is a writer, she is very comfortable in her identity. She is married to a white man, and so for her to go back to the slave-owning South was very, very traumatic. And to see her struggle with her contemporary sensibilities in that setting was really interesting. That is the meat of the book. She and Rufus form a really interesting relationship. Obviously, Rufus needs Dana because Dana continually saves his life. By the same token, Dana needs to be on good footing with Rufus to keep herself out of trouble. She does attempt to run away, she is beaten, she is very much treated as a slave, but Dana has a hand of cards at that time period that other slaves would not have had. And so she has a little more freedom in the way that she speaks to Rufus and interacts with him, and yeah, they mutually need each other, so they can also then manipulate each other. So it is very much about power structure and power struggles. What Dana finds, too, and I thought this was one of the most enlightening parts of the book, is that she was very surprised and very troubled by how easy it was to be subjugated. And that sounds funny, it just sounds weird, but you know, she found herself giving in, I think, much more quickly than she originally thought she would. Because when it comes to being beaten or being attacked by dogs or whatever, you know, the white slave owners had so many more resources than the slaves did. You know, I kind of think she had a contemporary idea that, you know, that would never happen to me. I could kind of fight back if I were in that situation. But when she's there, she feels like, now I see how this happens, you know, because sometimes it's easier to pacify Rufus, to just let things go or behave differently to avoid trouble. And so she discovers what it really is to be a slave and how degrading and how few options there are, you know, because it's really, there's a good chance that she would be killed if she chose to try to get out of that situation. Even if she went to the north, she may not be safe. So very much about power struggles, about gender roles as well. Just some really, really interesting things to chew on in the story, just as there were in Bloodchild. So I very much enjoyed Kindred. The only problem that I had with it was that Dana's dialogue seemed a little bit stilted, a little bit wooden, I guess. Though I do wonder if that was to differentiate her speech and her way of carrying herself from the slaves, from a more like regional dialect, slang perspective. I mean, it was very clear that the way she behaved was very different from those who were slaves from that 1800s time period. So, yeah, great writing overall. Octavia Butler is really able to accomplish a lot in her work, and so I'm really looking forward to reading more of her stuff. I definitely want to read Fledgling. I want to read The Parable of the Sower and the other books in that series, and more of her short fiction as well. Really impressed. Loved it. Kindred by Octavia Butler. I hope that you will try it as well, because I would love to talk about it. So I hope y'all are having a good day. Bye.